Hello and welcome to Mac TV. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to put together a Wyvern team, the key components, some key stats to look out for, some key Wyvern mechanics, and some example team comps. And if you guys could kindly hit that subscribe button, it would greatly help my channel out. Alright, there are two key mechanics you must remember for Wyvern. One being that he must always have 2 debuffs on him. This will force him to attack the frontmost character. Secondly, you must break Wyvern's barrier before he gets his turn, otherwise he's going to one-shot your team. There are 3 components to every Wyvern team: the tank, the debuffer, and the DPS. Alright, let's talk about stat requirements. Now for your tanks, you want to focus on HP, defense, and effective resistance, and you want them to have as much of it as you can get on them. Next, debuffers. The big key stat line to focus on is effectiveness. You want this 65% and higher because good old RNG will not always happen in your favor. And lastly, let's talk about DPS. The 3 key stats for them is attack, crit chance, and crit damage. And remember, whoever you select as your DPS, make sure they have the artifact Daydream Joker. Alright, let's start off with the tanks. First off, we have Crozet. This man is the definition of a tank in Epic 7. His self-barrier mechanic makes him an absolute beast. All you need to build this man with is HP, defense, effective resist, and the artifact Noble Oath. Next up, we have Angelica. Angelica is incredibly self-sufficient thanks to her ultimate mechanic with a barrier and healing. All you need to build her with is HP, defense, and effective resistance, and speed with around 160. Next up, we have Angelica Moto Nancy. She is another great option due to her built-in self-combat readiness push. However, I feel that you need to focus a lot more on her HP and defense due to her not having very great low base stats. Next up, we have G-Purg, which is another great option due to his combat readiness push skill. And lastly, we have Sinful Angelica. I personally haven't tested her mechanics in Wyvern, but I've read that she is a great one to have for one-shot teams. Next, let's talk about debuffers. And let's start off with Fierce. He's a 4-star water ranger unit that you can get for free in the connections. He's great because he has a defense break skill, a skill that applies burn, and a skill that buffs critical chance to all allies. And this is obviously great because it decreases gear requirements for Wyvern. And in addition to this, if you have the Song of the Stars artifact, he can apply another debuff called Target, which increases damage dealt by 10%. Next, we have Mui, a 3-star thief that also has a defense break skill, a skill that applies bleed, and a counter mechanic that can apply decreased attack. Both these are staple options for Wyvern. And lastly, let's talk about the DPS role. Now, there's a lot of great picks for this slot, such as Luluka, Corinne, Clarissa, Chloe, but I think the 3 most commonly used ones are Alexa, Sigret, and Seaside Bologna. Now, what makes Alexa a great pick is that when she crits when using her first skill, she'll follow up with another attack. Sigret is another great choice due to her ultimate skill doing increased damage depending on how many debuffs the enemy has, as well as when she uses her skill 2 and the enemy has less than 50%, she'll auto-activate her first skill. Now, Seaside Bologna is a premier unit. Her ultimate can cause 2 debuffs, making the enemy unbuffable and unhealable. She also has a auto attack mechanic where she builds stacks depending on how many times she gets hit, and then she activates her skill 2, which can lead to a defense break. And lastly, her first skill causes a debuff called Target, which increases the damage to the enemy by 10%. Now, the 4th slot is entirely up to you, but I would recommend that you select another debuffer character or another DPS. Me personally, I would pick another debuffer. But the thing to keep in mind is that the debuffer and DPS, there's a lot of characters that blend into both of these roles, so you really can't go wrong as long as they fulfill one of those categories. Alright, here are some example team comps that I put together with some of the characters that I've talked about. Alright, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. And please leave a comment down below. And until next time.